Friday.
Friday again. We're back.
Yes. EBT.
Yes, EBT, and yeah, we're gonna talk about biking. Like, I think John, it'd be interesting to see if we looked at all of our episodes, how many are biking versus running versus swimming. I think it's almost like triathlon. Like it's a
Yeah.
least amount swimming,
Yeah.
most amount biking, and a moderate amount running. What do you think?
I think that would be interesting to do. I could see if I can run ChatGPT and see what it can tell me. But before we get into that, hey, great job at Waco.
Oh my gosh, yes, Waco. What a weekend. A whirlwind of a weekend. It's always fun to like zip in and zip out of a town and do a relatively big race. Um, but yeah, it was fun. I'm still recovering. I got a little bit of a cold, I think.
Well,
Lack, lack of sleep and then just like
yeah.
crushing your body
Yeah.
is not a good idea. But thank you. It was good to race fast on a
Yeah.
long distance again. And then also honestly like good to like figure out like perseverance again.
Hmm.
That was a very difficult race. And the funny thing is when I signed up originally, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be an easy race.
Yeah.
I've actually come to the conclusion there are no easy 70.3s if you want to go fast.
Yeah, I thought that was flat, but I heard some of the reports where it's a little more hillier than.
It's not that it's hilly, like it's really not. It's very flat, but the road surface on the bike is really rough.
Okay.
And I think it was 25 miles of some of the worst chip seal I've ever ridden on.
That's
And
no fun.
it's no fun. It's hard to put down power in onto chip seal. You feel like you're almost in quicksand, and,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't even realize it after like a half hour straight of just vibrating along. Then you hit some good section of the road, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can actually put some power down. The chip seal almost like lulls you to sleep.
Yeah. Well, I think we locals will recognize that when if you race down at Lake Mead, where you're coming back to transition on the bike and you're on that heavy chip
Yeah,
seal, and then you hit that smooth road. And
exactly.
it's like, oh my goodness, what a difference. And yeah, so the chip seal is it's rough. It's vibrations. Vibrations are never good for, well, never, but that's too strong a word. But vibrations aren't good for the body. So
Yeah, it was good, and then it was really interesting too. The because it's a river swim, but I'm going to explain this to people. Like I've never been in a river that didn't flow.
hmm.
Like there was zero flow. We did a practice swim on Friday,
Yeah.
so it's basically in the middle of the river and looking at like sitting beside a buoy and
Yeah.
not moving.
Well, then it's a lake.
It's basically a lake swim. But when I sign up, I'm like, oh, it looks like it's a downriver swim, point to point. Like that's gonna be nice.
Yeah,
So
that's
then
funny.
the morning of we race, and the swim times were really slow.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
The wind was going against us.
Okay.
So if you think about a point to point swim, if it's no flow, but there's a headwind the entire way,
Yeah, it does matter in the
it
swim.
does matter.
Hmm.
But when you think about normally with a course, you're going like out and back. So if there's a headwind or something, you're going to get the tailwind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there was no tailwind.
Mhm.
Yeah, but anyways, it's all good. Like, it is what it is. I don't think I'll race that race again,
Yeah.
mostly because of the bike. And also, I don't understand. And I actually talked to some volunteers about this. I don't understand why you would have that race in early October when you could easily have it in early November and it would be 15 degrees cooler,
Mm-hmm.
because it was a death march on the run.
Yeah.
You know, over 80
Yeah.
degrees with humidity. Yeah, I felt bad. Like, I mean, I felt bad for some people because I could see people, especially, I'm on my first loop, or second loop, I'm struggling. People on their first loop struggling,
Hmm.
and I'm like, this is rough.
Yeah.
It's really rough. So, but it's all,
And second in 50-54.
yeah, second in 50-54, and it was really fun because you don't like I had nobody on the course.
Mhm.
Everybody I went with was racing,
Yeah.
so I had absolutely no idea what position I was in.
Right.
I didn't know till I got back to the hotel. Because I finished the race and cooled down just for like 5 minutes or so in the shade, and then our hotel was pretty close, so I walked across the bridge to the hotel, got my phone because it was still in the hotel, and looked. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
I was hoping, like, I was really hoping like top 10.
Yeah,
And so yeah, that was pretty special. It's
yeah,
been a long time since I've been on the podium,
yeah.
so that it
Been
was,
a national level race, and it's been a long road for you to get back to this. So that congratulations on that, and a slot for Nice.
yeah, yeah. So and that was actually really cool too because the last few World Championships I've qualified for, I had to have a roll down.
Hmm.
And yes, I did have a roll down, but I was a guaranteed roll down.
Yeah.
Like there was 35 spots, and I think on the performance pool, I ended up, I think it was 25th or 26th.
Hmm.
So I knew for sure I had
Yeah.
a spot, and that was kind of nice to go to the
Yeah.
awards
Yeah.
knowing that
Yeah.
you have a spot. So
That's
um, yeah, so it was good. It's really weird. I've qualified now for two World Championships I haven't raced yet.
hmm.
Yeah, I got now planned two trips to Europe.
Yeah.
But it's still, I mean, I was tickled pink about the whole thing,
That's
and
good.
yeah, it was beyond my expectations to honestly to finish second. So
So flat bike course, you're an Aero a lot.
I was in Aero more than I ever imagined I would be
Mhm.
because my it was so bumpy that my front water bottle situation started vibrating loose.
Oh boy.
So I had to be in Aero to hold my
Oh
between
yeah.
between the
Yeah.
arms. No, seriously, like
Yeah.
I was holding the position and like wedged my bottle in between my arms. And so I really forced being an arrow.
Yeah. Oh
There were times when like I get a little tailwind, a little uphill. I could probably sit up here and I didn't because I was like, okay, I gotta hold this.
yeah.
So fortunately, I'd been doing some arrow training leading into this race because I knew it was going to be a lot. And we did a race or we did some rides out in Corn Creek, and I was riding with somebody, and we're just talking about heart rate in
Hmm.
air. And as I was transitioning from my summer of training where I was mostly on a road bike and getting back on the time trial bike and an aero, we both made the thought process or sub thought process, and this is a true thing, that in aero you have a higher heart rate for a given power. And I never really thought too much about that. And
Hmm.
started thinking about, they asked me like, well, why? And I started thinking about it. I'm like, in some ways it doesn't make sense because in a flat position, you're not pumping your heart's not pumping against gravity,
Hmm.
right? But in other reasons, and we'll talk about that, there's other reasons why it might be actually higher. And then I start thinking about, okay, well, as a coach and I'm prescribing workouts based off of heart rate, does it need to be different if they're seated versus being in air?
Hmm. Hmm.
Would the power be significantly different? And so obviously, I go down a little bit of a deep dive in my brain and on the internet and do some reading. And then I reached out to you and I'm like, well, what do you think? And this came to be the topic. So
Hmm.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's a great topic. And it even leads to the question of why we even measure heart rate during exercise.
Exactly. It doesn't really matter.
What does heart rate tell you? Well,
Yes.
and we've talked about this before. Heart rate is a proxy for rate of oxygen consumption. Heart rate is related to how fast we're consuming and using oxygen. And that is what tells us how intense the exercise is. Because we know this VO2 max term, people use it all the time. But rate of oxygen consumption is how fast we're using oxygen to transform chemical energy, carbohydrates, fats, maybe proteins a little bit, transform that energy to mechanical energy, in essence, energy of movement. And we have two metabolic ways to doing that. One is aerobically, and one is anaerobically. And when you're doing these types of races, 70.3, iron distance, triathlon in general, we're pretty much shooting for that aerobic transformation of chemical energy to mechanical energy. So that is aerobic power, how fast we're transforming chemical energy to mechanical energy. We could also have anaerobic power, which we do that. You don't need oxygen to make that transformation, and you still get mechanical energy, and so we call that anaerobic power. And that is a system we use for spurts up hills or sprints or changing pace of some sort. We tap into the anaerobic system. So VO2 is where it's at. That's
Yeah,
what we want to know during exercise. Heart rate is just a good predictor of VO2 when we're doing steady state exercise.
but not so much when we're like out on a race or where things are a lot more variable.
If pace is changing, if we're going up and down hills, heart rate is not a good predictor of VO2 because the anaerobic system kicks in. And the anaerobic system is not predicted by heart rate. If you go through strength training, heart rate isn't telling you anything during strength training. Yes, heart rate goes up, but that's not telling you information about your strength training intensity. If you watch a scary movie, your heart rate goes up, but
Yeah.
that's not telling you about how intense aerobically your movie watching is. So no, you're right. If you're changing pace a lot, if there's a lot of fluctuations in pace, heart rate is not a good predictor of VO2.
So, John, before we get into the actual time trial stuff, I think there's other things that are considerations here as well, right? So, heart rate's also not great if you have other confounding variables. Like number one, how about if you just swam maximally for 40 minutes
Mm-hmm.
before you get on the bike,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? I don't I don't know about you, but every time I get on a bike in a triathlon, my heart rate is way higher for the same power if I was just to go out and go for a bike ride.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we have, there's a confounding variable there. The other one that I always see is caffeine, right? If I have a couple hundred milligrams of caffeine before I go out and exercise, my heart rate could be higher.
Yep.
Or I don't sleep the night before,
Yep.
my heart rate's higher. So it's a proxy, but it's not necessarily always a very good proxy, I guess.
No, and I love that because if I mathematically want to figure out what my rate of oxygen consumption is, which again is that's aerobic power, and that tells us how fast we're transforming energy chemically to mechanically. If I want to calculate VO2, I need to know heart rate. I need to know stroke volume, which is how much blood is pumped with each beat, and I need to know how much oxygen is extracted from the blood.
Exactly.
I need to know those three things. Then I can figure out VO2.
Yeah.
Without knowing those three things, I can't calculate VO2. During steady state exercise, a stroke volume and AVO2 difference are pretty predictable, which
Yeah.
means heart rate is the only variable at that point. But the situations you just described, heart rate can change. That doesn't mean VO2 changes because stroke volume may get smaller.
Exactly.
AVO2 difference may change. It's probably more stroke volume for those examples, is that it's just the heart starts beating, but it doesn't push out as much blood with each beat. So a change in heart rate by itself is not an indicator of change in VO2, especially for the situations you described.
Okay, so let me ask you the question that I was asked. Why is heart rate higher time trialing versus sitting up on a bicycle? And
So
it could be the same bicycle, just a sitting position versus an
yep.
aero position.
Yeah, so this is an interesting question that there's many layers to try to answer the question. But my simple answer is if VO2 is the same for riding in upright or aero, and heart rate is higher for one condition versus another condition, that means either stroke volume or AVO2 is lower. That's my mathematical answer, okay? And I'll stick to that. But there's many layers to this. One is, are we talking about biking outdoors at the same power, or are we talking about biking outdoors at the same speed? Because once we introduce aerodynamic issues for cycling outdoors, aero position is going to win in terms of how easy it is or how hard it is to bike a given speed.
But let's say power is the same, 200 watts for either.
Yeah. Okay. So now I would take that inside and I would put people on the bike biking at 200 watts. That way, I remove the air resistance issue and have them exercise the same intensity and mechanical power. That's telling us, in essence, what the mechanical power is. So, mechanical power, which is telling us the aerobic power need to do that mechanical power. Okay, so this all goes together. So if that is the same and heart rate's different, again, it has to be either stroke volume or AVO2 difference is changing. So now, what is it about the aerodynamic position that could influence either stroke volume or AVO2 difference? AVO2 difference is probably not something that's changing in this case. It's just that's more cellular level
Right.
things that are happening, but stroke volume is probably the parameter where it's implicated. It's how much heart or how much blood is being pumped with each heart. So, aero position, describe that in terms of how I don't know how easy it is to breathe or comfort level or
Well, there's a few things, right? Because like hip and knee angles are different.
yeah.
Mostly, actually, it's mostly hip angle.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some thought process that maybe you're constraining stroke volume by compressing the arteries or the venous return in the anterior part of the thigh.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the potential explanations. Does that hold water?
Oh, it does. In fact, I found a paper on that that it looked at seat tube angle
Yep.
and how in either upright or aero position, and the shallower the seat tube angle, the more flexed you are at the hip, and the harder the exercise was, and a greater VO2 for a given power.
Yep. So I love this because I mean we've talked about this before, but this is the reason that time trialists go to
That's,
short cranks,
yep,
right? We talked to Jim Martin, right,
yep,
about this, about
mhm,
short cranks and how it should make a difference in your power output, but the big change is it can if it opens up the hip angle, makes it like you said more relaxed hip angle. Um, you should potentially have less resistance there as far as blood flow. And
mhm,
so that's definitely one. Another thing we're seeing with more and more time trialists is they're actually raising their torso.
yeah, yeah, right,
So instead of being having a flat torso, they're actually sitting up more
yep,
and you see more spacers.
hmm
Traditionally, we used to think, oh, the flatter you could be, the better.
hmm
It's constraining blood flow and causing stroke volume to go down.
yep,
Effort has to go up.
yep,
And so if you can still be arrow and not be flat, it might actually be a winning position. So that's the first one. And that seems to make sense, correct?
oh, totally, yeah. It's restriction of the chest cavity to be able to allow blood to flow in and out of the heart.
So then the next one is actually like breathing constraints. So when you're actually compressed like this, and especially if you have the hip flexion and torso flexion, so through the thoracic spine, so the through the back, basically, if you're especially if you're really crouched, um, this could actually make it more difficult to breathe,
Hmm.
more difficult on your diaphragm and the accessory muscles for breathing. That extra effort to breathe will actually increase your utilization of oxygen,
Yep.
right? Because it's more difficult. And then that would also cause your heart rate to go up as a response to the basically being more difficult to breathe.
Hmm.
Does that one make sense? Or does
Oh,
that
yeah.
hold water
No, it
too?
does. No, totally. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I think that I think those are the two big ones as far as like the position side of things. There's some talk about like rolling of the pelvis as well, but
Hmm.
I don't think that's as impactful as the first two. I don't know what
Yeah.
you're
I think that the idea is to put as little pressure in the trunk region based upon getting in this flex position at the hip. And so that's why your time trial bike, your seat post is more vertical. And this is the problem with some of the early research on this whole area is because they were keeping the same seat post angle, but then changing from an upright to an aero position.
Oh, yeah.
That actually introduces that higher flexion amount when you're in aero. So it wasn't really something to do so much with the upper body, even supporting you on upright versus aero. But yeah, that's why time trial bike has that more steeper seat post as to allow that hip angle to not go in as much flexion during a pedal stroke. And like you said, smaller, shorter cranks as well is one of the other areas that people have employed to reduce that pressure on the trunk.
I always say that if your thigh is hitting your chest when you're cycling, you're probably having way too much compression there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you see some people that it comes really close. Like they're really
Hmm.
low and they have maybe longer cranks than they
Yeah.
probably should. And the up on the upstroke, it's really like there's a lot of compression there. There's even we've seen this in some of the athletes, but not recreational athletes in general, but the pro athletes that spend a lot of time in aero, we've seen issues where there's actually a fibrosis that occurs in the veins from
Hmm.
being missed so much and having so much pressure on them.
Hmm.
Uh, and it actually can be quite devastating to them. And most often they have to have a surgery to actually to fix this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Can't remember the name. It's endothelial, I don't know, fibrosis of the iliac, the common iliac vein.
Wow.
Yeah. But mostly you see this in like pro level triathletes or pro level cyclists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time spent in position, and that's the other part that is important here is experience
Yeah.
in position. I don't know. What are your thoughts on
Well, I
getting?
think that's really important, right? Because that's also this goes back to efficiency,
Hmm.
right? Like neuromuscular efficiency.
Hmm.
So we didn't even go down this road yet, but the patterning from your brain to your legs, right, through motor control, um, will make you more of an efficient cyclist. And
Hmm.
we've talked about this before when we've ridden with like elite cyclists or time trialists, they just look smoother.
Yeah, yeah.
They're more efficient. Well, the more time you spend in the time trial position, the more efficient cyclist you're going to be. Then, same power, your oxygen consumption should go down.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that, I mean, that's what we talk about running economy. That's one of the things that happens when you become an economical runner. You run more, your body learns the motor patterns as far as when to turn off muscles, when to turn on muscles in the correct pattern that's the
Hmm.
most efficient. And it happens in cycling, uh,
Hmm.
especially when you notice it when you once again you go from road cycling to time trialing. But if you time trial all the time and then you get on a road bike and you're going to go climb in the mountains, you're not going to be very efficient in
Right.
that either,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah, no, you beat me to it on the muscle on off aspect of pedaling is that your brain does learn how to, in essence, not recruit muscles at the wrong time, or right time, whichever way, but turn them off at the right time. And when you turn muscles off, they don't need to contribute to generating ATP, which would be done via VO2 aerobic system. So you don't need VO2
Yeah.
for that. And so the more you can quiet muscles at the right time, the more efficient, more economical you're going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is like in cycling an off time, right?
Hmm.
Like after you finish the powerful part of your stroke,
Hmm.
the muscle should turn off.
Yeah.
And the old thought process, oh, you need to like lift up on the upstroke. Well, no, actually what you want to do is turn it off and let the
Hmm.
other leg push you down and actually rest on the upstroke.
Hmm.
And that's really the most efficient way to cycle.
Yeah, I think in cycling races, the idea is to pedal the least in a race, but that means you're in a pack and there's a whole nother
It's true.
there.
But in a time trial, you're really it should be the same, right? Like you should want to go the fastest with the least amount of effort.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Right. Hmm.
You're wasting effort by, for example, like pulling up
Hmm.
when you don't need to, because the other leg can push you down in a more efficient way. You recruiting bigger, stronger muscles. Ultimately, that would be the more efficient way to cycle.
Yeah.
And your body will naturally learn how to do it, by the way. Like I think that's the thing that people, oh, I got to work on my pedaling technique. Well, just go cycle more in the
Mm.
position you want to race in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that there's been some work on pedal force, as you know, and we may think we pull up, but we actually do not pull up. And if anything, we're just unweighting the pedal, so the other pedal, other leg, can be pushing down more effectively. So,
Exactly.
again, it's that coordination between the left and right sides that you're not working against yourself. So,
Exactly.
no.
Exactly. Awesome. Um, any other thoughts? for
Well,
ways we could actually maybe improve this?
well, actually, I was going to go in the coaching direction
Okay.
because
Yep.
you started there, and I really like that. Um, because if heart rate is different in aero versus upright, how do you prescribe exercise intensity based upon heart rate?
I don't know. Oh, seriously, because here's the thing is like every athlete that I work with, well, unless they're training indoors,
Hmm.
there's going to be times when they're going to be seated up, right?
Yep.
Maybe they're going to go up a climb, they're going to get a drink, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Um, so what I try and do is as racing, as we go into like our race prep, is start to like talk to people like, hey, especially I know if they don't, some people love to be an arrow and they're an arrow all the time. I don't have to really worry about that. But if somebody's been doing a lot of like, once again, like hill climbing or on their road bike, it's like, let's just get you on the time trial bike more.
Yeah.
And what I've seen is once they spent like a month of basically on the time trial bike, the heart rate actually starts to normalize
Yeah.
a lot closer to where they were on their road bike.
Hmm. I
So I
like
don't really, it'd be very intricate. Like if I think if I was working with like a high level cyclist
it.
that
Hmm.
was going to go back and forth between time trialing and road cycling, I think it would be maybe a deeper dive.
Yeah.
But with a triathlete, yeah, I don't know. I think I maybe it'd be better just to go with power
I
as they
just
make that transition.
That's where I was going to go. Is I mean, this is why you have different tools available to you. You have really three main tools. One is heart rate, one is power that you just mentioned,
Yep,
and the other is rating of perceived exertion, a
exactly.
psychological perception of how hard the exercise is. And you really got to use those three together to really get a sense of where you are. Mechanical power is going to be, if we're seated and we're going steady state, that mechanical power is going to tell us VO2. It's the same. It's the same concept. Aerobic power, mechanical power. It's how fast we're transforming energy. But if we're out of the saddle, or if we're sprinting, or we're going uphill, or we're changing pace, well, now that mechanical power is not going to tell us VO2 because now we have the anaerobic system and anaerobic power that aerobic power and anaerobic power together will equal the mechanical power. But it's all a matter of using the tools and using them together and not relying on any one to make a decision. You sort of look at, okay, where am I at power wise? What's happening heart rate wise? What's my subjective rating of how hard this is? And that is important.
Well, I think the other one is just how fast are you going,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if one no, this is kind of the duh moment, but like nobody cared on Sunday at my race what my power was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was
Mm-hmm.
the time,
Yeah.
right? Nobody knows how aero I was. It's the time. Nobody knows what my heart rate was. Well, I do. I mean, obviously it's on Strava. You could see it all.
Mm-hmm.
But I got around that course really fast and not a lot of power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's my goal, right? I want to use the least amount of power possible to get around the course. So when we think about these things and we're looking at that, maybe the training prescription can also be, especially if you can control the course, is hey, your goal is to stay over 20 miles an hour,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to force people maybe even to like, I need to spend more time in aero to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once again, it's just another lever we could potentially pull.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. Good stuff.
Awesome. All right, well, short but sweet today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
Love it.
we've been shooting for on our return a 30-minute EBT. So
Yep.
I think we're at about 30 minutes.
Perfect. Well, hey John, I hope you have a good weekend and you get some training in, I hope. Um, I'm a little under the weather, but I'm hoping I can get a little bit of aerobic work in this weekend. But yeah, I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too. All right, talk soon.